So it's a pleasure speaking. I think a lot of speeches and stuff I do, they're often in front of very large audiences that aren't necessarily community based. But it's great to be here, and I think from what I've seen in the last hour is that there's a really big community spirit around here. Lots of people working together to find solutions to the problems facing us, which is climate change. And I was going to speak. I'll introduce myself properly first. So my name is Django. I'm a 17-year-old social activist, and I'm passionate about many issues. Mainly, my work is kind of focused around environmental issues. And over the past 4 years, I've been dedicated to what we call youth social action. I started as a youth councillor for Sheffield Youth Council, and now I've kind of moved on to regional and national areas. So I've worked on the Yorkshire Humber Regional Youth Climate Association, Assembly, to my role as a campaign coordinator for a climate education campaign, Teach for Teacher. So I know as a human living in today's kind of world, it can be scary and it can feel rather hopeless at times about what the future may hold for us, and that's particularly a thing amongst young people. And it's definitely very right that we feel that, and it's perfectly normal to feel that, of course. But there is obviously a need to turn those feelings into action, and that's kind of where my work kind of started. So I've been through a lot of things in my life, and often you kind of get the temptation to kind of just, after something happens to you, to go away, sit down, binge watch your favourite series, go to sleep, and then just kind of walk on as though nothing ever happened. And I was unable to do that, so I turned my feelings into this form of action, and I felt hopeless and scared about what the future may hold for us and about climate change. And I started doing this because I know that's it's much greater if you can turn those feelings into change, into action. Then that's much greater than sitting around and wallowing in your misery. Not that that's wrong sometimes. So last year, I'm going to speak to you a bit about climate change. I know you, possibly all of you, know loads about it, and I don't want to give you deep feelings of misery. I don't want to make you feel depressed. So last year was the hottest year on record for the planet. Last month, May, was the hottest month on record for Sheffield. It's getting worse. There's no denying it, it's getting worse, and we're not on track to keep the Earth's temperatures below the 1.5 degrees as agreed by the Paris climate change. And there's things happening in the world, such as in America, we may end up seeing a climate denier become the president for a second time running, and the president of America is a very powerful person and has a lot of influence across the world, and those sort of events aren't good for the society. And there hasn't been a day where I've looked at the news and not felt angry or despair or hopeless. That these have made me want to campaign more and raise more awareness. And sometimes I have those days where I think, what's the point of me doing this? Why am I doing this? Because it's only one person, it's not going to change much. And then I come to events like this, and then I meet other young people campaigning around climate change, and I realise it isn't all just for nothing at all. And that gives me an overwhelming sense of hope. I must say, the last hour, you've all given me an overwhelming sense of hope. That it's not just us that are feeling angry, that there's no actions being taken, and it's not just one person trying to change things. There are millions, billions of people out there that are trying to create change. And it's people like you and me that are going to end up creating more of the change. We have politicians that they engage in environmental politics, they do that bit of negotiating, they turn climate change into political football. So I want to speak for a moment about the place of young people in this movement. As I'm sure you're all aware, over the past 4, 5, 6 years, we've seen a growing rise in the number of young people that are really passionate about this. It took young people, the school strikes back in 2019, it took young people to actually tell politicians that, we need to start creating action. It took them, young people, for them to take it a tiny bit more serious. It took a young girl from Sweden for them to, actually speak some sense at COP26. It's only tiny little things, and it's young people that are starting that alongside many of the movements. And they still aren't taking climate change seriously. A court last month, they ruled that Rishi Sunak had individually put us back on our net zero targets. That's not good. We were barely meeting them anyway, so to be being put back on them, that's not good. And we're holding COPs in countries that are living and breathing on fossil fuels. And with inviting fossil fuel companies to take part in COP. COP is where the serious conversations should be happening about how we move together as a world, as a global kind of movement, how we move to a better future. And, we're going nowhere. I wrote a list of all the places in the world that have experienced really serious climate disasters lately. So we've had fires in Australia, Canada, Hawaii, Oregon, California, Greece, Spain, Italy, Turkey, Venezuela, South Africa, Kazakhstan, Indonesia, Chile, Brazil, and we had some in the UK last summer. We've had floods in Libya, Greece, Turkey, Bulgaria, Italy, Slovenia, Norway, Sweden, Germany, Kenya, Somalia, Ethiopia, Pakistan, Bangladesh, and again the UK. We're all seeing it, everywhere is seeing it, and we're seeing it like we've never seen before. And there's something that we talk a lot about in climate action called intergenerational climate action. It's about the younger people and the older people working together to find solutions. And one of the roles I have is with the campaign, climate education campaign called Teacher. We train students to go into their schools to lead a session with their teachers around climate change and how they can embed it into their way of teaching their curriculum, into every subject, not just geography, not just biology, into every subject. And the feedback we get out of that is that the teachers learn so much, the students learn so much, and that forms an intergenerational bond that is really valuable to have within the classroom. Because, too often we send teachers on training courses that are led by adults that think they know what's best for young people. Why don't we send teachers on training courses that are led by young people who know what's best for them? Climate change is a pressing issue, and many young people don't feel they are educated enough on climate change, and nor do teachers feel prepared to teach on climate change. And there's no shred of it in our curriculum. Sorry, I've lost my place in my head. There we go. And this is something we need to create a decision-making arena. Currently, decisions are being made that are going to impact us in the short term and the long term, but these decisions are being made by 650 people with an average age of 40 to 50. That's not going to help. In 2100, these people will be non-existent. Not to, scary one, but in 2100, I should be 93 and fingers crossed, hopefully still alive, but the evidence is showing us now time and time again that, the chance of me being alive in 2100 ain't gonna happen. But yet we're having decisions made for us by sort of, average age 50-year-olds. It's like your parents tell you what to do for your entire life until you are aged 50. Can you imagine that? Or can I buy these pair of shoes when you're like 49? No. And that's using climate change as a political weapon isn't going to help young people at all. And that's why we need to find solutions. And that's why it comes down to us as a community at the moment, because, are at the centre of their, ironically, community, and they know what's best for their community. And if politicians, decision makers, aren't going to listen to us, then we need to take it into our own hands. And that's wrong, but we should be taking it into our own hands. You know, we shouldn't have to essentially be in this room today because we should be relying on politicians that we elected to, you know, essentially solve these and actually work to make our lives better. But no, it's back down to us again. And social justice as well. There are so many social injustices out there, and we use a phrase a lot within climate action called "there's no climate justice without social justice," and that is so true. Like in the world, there are third world, you know, poverty-distraught countries that are trying to fund their citizens' survival against the worst climate change disasters ever. How can a country that's in poverty help their citizens if they can't at all? And a lot of these countries are also still facing the consequences of, you know, many years of colonisation. And our little kind of United Kingdom that's an island, you know, we're too big to help them. And when that's wrong, because we were the ones who went and colonised them. It's so wrong. We should be helping them. That is a social injustice that we should be trying to solve to then go forward and use climate to find solutions to climate action, and not blaming the first world countries that are using fossil fuels because that's the only way they have to make money. We need to help them instead of throwing them away, shoving them to the side at every COP, leaving them to form a group on their own so that they can be bigger than the other countries, so that they can overrule a decision that's going to harm them. That's wrong. And even with the UK, we have so many social injustices. How many communities are, you know, so deprived, and they don't have the money to fund community-based climate initiatives like this to actually help their community. It's impossible. Barnsley is one of the most deprived cities in this country, and they, time and time again, they get no funding whatsoever for anything. So how can we expect them to take action on climate change? They can't. So I'm going to quickly wrap up now. I have no idea how long I've talked for. I hope it hasn't been too long. I hope it's been useful or interesting as such. I want to reiterate again the power of young people and communities in this battle we have. Events like this remind us that at a local level we can make a difference. This week is Volunteers Week. It's a really big week, I say, the most biggest week in the country. And I want to give a particularly big shout out to all the volunteers in this room that are doing so much to help our communities. And yesterday was also Power of Youth Day. I always find Power of Youth Day really, really kind of emotional for me, because I know the difference that a lot of youth work can make to young people, but also there are young people out there that are changing the future and our world's future just in their communities, doing small actions, litter picking, you know, as small as it gets, just to make that bit of change. And we often say young people are the future, and that's not wrong, they are, but the future is now. You know, the effects of climate change aren't waiting around so there's no more humans on the planet. They're here right now.